Hi, my name is Qin Xiaojie. I'm a psychotherapist. Sometimes you will hear people say, I just finished the therapy session, but I don't really know how I feel, or am I gaining anything from the therapy session, or should I continue with the therapist? In order to answer that question, I want to make a series of videos to provide perspective on the more fundamental question: what make a therapy session successful? And I will talk about contributing factors from both the client and the therapist. Although therapists provide services in slightly different ways, there are common foundational skills that every therapist needs to know. For example, empathetic listening, summarizing, building alliance with their client, challenging their blind spot, and helping them to grow and things like that. Now, how do you know whether a therapy session works for you or not? I invite you to use your two parts of the brain. One is called the emotional brain, the other is called the thinking brain, the logic brain. There are two questions that you can ask yourself that will be helpful. And remember, it's a scaling question. So I invite you to put a score from 1 to 10 to answer the following question. The first one is, do I feel like my therapist really care about my well-being? Well, that's really important because as a client, you want to feel like you can talk to your therapist about the issues and they are being listened to and you are being cared for, and they are going to provide the best service they could. And that's your own intuition, I would say, your gut feeling. I have a personal story to share. So a couple of years ago, when I was going through a really rough time at work, I had a lot of anxiety, a lot of stress. I was very emotional. I decided, okay, it's time for me to go see a therapist. So I went to a public hospital here in Beijing, and I had a few sessions with the therapist. But there's one time the therapist came in at 8 o'clock. I was the first client. Instead of asking me how my day is, what's bothering me, or checking in with where we were in our last session, the therapist decided to play me a video and simply instruct me to follow the video. It turned out to be a 20 minutes meditation, guided meditation by audio. And during this 20 minutes time, the therapist was changing clothes. I could hear it, even with my eyes closed. I could hear it was pouring tea, and he was getting himself ready for work. After the session, I just didn't feel great at all because I felt like my time was not respected and my well-being was not very taken seriously as well. The second question is, do I think my therapist have the capacity and technical skills to treat me or to support me? Well, this might be a little difficult for people to answer if they've never done therapy before or they know nothing about psychology at all. I don't think you need to worry about it. Again, on the spectrum of 1 to 10, you have a rough idea of whether that's going to the 9 or 10, or it's skewing to the 2 or 3, right? Again, if it's below 5, then that's something that you need to take into consideration of whether you want to change a therapist or not. Here, I want to give you another example. So when I was a client seeing a therapist for the first time, I remember there's one therapist I had a conversation with for 15 minutes. And it was roughly the same time when I was going through a rough time at work. And I felt like I was the one who was talking a lot. And after the session, I didn't feel like I gained anything. I also facilitate the peer support group in Beijing as well. And I felt like, that didn't do me much more than just venting. Venting was also helpful, but I could just go to a support group instead of going to see a therapist. It just doesn't justify paying that much just to vent. I hope these two scaling questions are helpful in your decision making whether you want to continue with the therapist or not. In my next video, I'll continue to talk about contributing factors from a therapist, and this time it's on their schedule. So stay tuned.